When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid.
There's only one way to combat it, which is to become it. To become someone who enjoys talking about dead people.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
I think that's maybe the sad reality we're looking at here.
I'm so tired of talking about people that we've lost and people who have passed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we even talked about Jerry Lewis.
No, I don't think we did.
No, who died on the 20th. Any feelings on Jerry Lewis?
He was a very talented man.
Yeah.
He gave a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of charity stuff.
Yeah.
Charity work.
Yeah, he certainly did. And as for, I mean, I haven't seen anything. Maybe nobody cares. And it's been kind of dead for a while, the telethon. But, like, I don't remember any articles, in the Post saying, oh, Jerry's skimming all that money off. Like, what's the old Chris Rock joke? 35 years of a telethon. His kids still can't walk. Jerry Lewis, 35 years. Every hair on his head black still. All the money's going to Christian Formula. We know what's going on. Never anything like that. All above board.
Yeah.
It's funny. I've heard a lot of celebrities just listening to other podcasts and things, which I'm not going to send you to. I'm going to obey the rule this time. It's all mixed. It isn't like, oh, what a shining talent, what a great performer. It's almost like we're all clear now that we got the green light to say what we really wanted to say.
Okay.
And it's good, but there's a lot of like, oh boy, that guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Made a lot of enemies. I just said I wasn't going to send anybody anywhere. There's this podcast I listened to. It's by a guy named Blana Bluld. And he had some people on who had worked closely with him, and they told this crazy story of trying to get this independent movie made. And he was the money, quote unquote, because he's Jerry Lewis. That's how you make an independent movie. You got to get somebody in there, and then it could be about talking vaginas or whatever.
Sure.
About a rubber tire that's sentient and has psychic powers, which is a new Marvel show, actually, on IMAX. And, they just did not... There was a segment that was like, the guy, you cannot, there is nothing today that compares to how popular Martin and Lewis were in the 50s and 60s.
Sure.
They were huge. They had TV show, movies, they were on the radio, they did live performances. They were gigantic. They were, the Beatles and Brad Pitt and Katy Perry, like all rolled into one. And nothing is, the entire environment's changed now as far as entertainment goes, but there's just nothing, you can't even imagine how big they were.
Right.
And they only lasted for 10 years. 10 years to the day, actually.
Oh,
they broke up. Their last performance, 10 years from their first performance. So, you acknowledge that, but then there's the other side, which is, he called me this, and he called me that, and he took over the movie, and he wanted to do this, and everybody wants to know if we're going to finally see The Day the Clown Cried now.
Oh, boy. Which he had buried.
Yeah, and I don't remember, I should have looked this up before I talked about it, but he had already made some kind of provision, which would be like, you can see it, I'll be gone in 50 years, whether I die tomorrow or not, so you can have it then or whatever.
Okay.
But, he's gone now, and somebody's got it.
Right.
It exists.
Yeah.
So with all the leaks and things like that, I don't know. Could see it. Would you want to see that?
I don't know that that's something I would want to see.
You're familiar with it?
Not super
Maybe
familiar.
for you or for the audience, it is a story about, it's a movie set in World War II. I think this was like early 70s. This was like the Percocet years for Jerry. Like he was, he did a lot of physical comedy, and like a lot of physical performers, took drugs, painkillers to deal with his injuries, and he was real whacked out for a while. But he made this film about a clown, a Jewish guy in World War II who's sent to a concentration camp, and he's allowed to live and not be, sent to the gas chambers if he does his clown bit and entertains the kids at the camp.
Right.
And eventually, ends up being, the guy that sort of leads them to the gas chambers in like a Pied Piper situation.
That's horrible. We've talked about this before.
Whoa! Whoa! I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
Although, all he had to do was wait 25 years, call it Life is Beautiful, and we're good to go.
Not quite.
We all went nuts for that.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, anyway, if that comes out, listeners, you will be the first ones to know. If you're listening to the Just Enough Trope podcast, I'm your host, Caliban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mikan Hana.
And we are dealing with the sad deaths that we seem to always have to. I shouldn't have to mention that Tobe Hooper died recently. He was, of course, the director of the Chainsaw Massacre.
Yep.
And Life Force, your favorite movie?
Oh, yes.
And just sort of an instrumental director of like horror and sci-fi in the 70s and 80s. I think he directed Poltergeist. His name's on it. But somebody, again, probably another podcast, won't send you there. But a camera operator or somebody recently sort of confessed to Variety or somebody that, Spielberg did really direct it.
Oh, really?
That was kind of went back and forth for years. Because he was a producer, he was supposed to direct it, and then he sort of was doing, I don't know, Indiana Jones or Gremlins or something. He didn't do Gremlins, it was Joe Dante. So he had Tobe Hooper come on, but he kind of hung around a lot. I don't know the exact story. I think maybe whatever he was going to work on didn't go or was just in turnaround. So he kind of was like, Steve's over eating bagels at the craft services table, and he's like, "Hey, man, if you turn the camera like this, you can." So yeah, he basically directed it.
Okay.
Also, it's a thing where I don't know if you would want Poltergeist on his sheet.
Why is that?
Because at this point he's like, people criticized what was 82 Temple of Doom. They criticized Temple of Doom for being like too full on, ripping hearts out and monkey brains and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so to have a Poltergeist where people are tearing their faces off and all kinds of horrible stuff. It's not on brand, for a Spielberg film.
No,
so
it's
you
not.
can take it, Mr.
Hooper,
Mr. Life Force Space Vampires Alien guy.
Yeah,
that's right up your alley.
Yeah.
So it's too bad, he'll be missed. And Brian Aldiss, this is a little while ago. This is actually the 19th before Jerry Lewis died, who was a influential science fiction writer. Probably mostly for. This feels familiar. I don't know. I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
Probably most familiar for his science fiction anthologies that he put together. I have more than a few dusty anthologies put together by Brian Aldiss of different authors' work. So, yeah. I don't know what to do. Maybe we do what our neighbors to the south do, and we just throw a whole sort of day, a whole
party
celebration.
Yeah.
As a big memento mori. We'll get the sugar skulls out and we'll just go the whole 9 yards.
That sounds good to me.
Is that appropriation? I want to be very careful.
I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, if it's a celebration, those Asians cancel each other out, right?
Right.
I just want to join in.
Yeah.
Maybe like this November 5th, we'll do a big look back to everybody we lost this year.
Was that the Day of the Dead?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Is it the 5th, right?
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Okay.
And that way you're not, like if we do a year-end show, you don't bring the party down by, what if Carrie Fisher, excuse me, I have it's just a purely hypothetical.
Yeah.
What if Carrie Fisher, greatest female star of the 70s and 80s, and George Michael, greatest singer of the 80s and 90s, died within like 24 hours of each other in December? Wouldn't that not get into your Day of the Dead thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to road test that someday. I know that's totally hypothetical, but that comes up. Maybe we'll have to change our plans. What are our plans? We're going to talk some news again today, as we usually do, bringing you all the news that's fit to cast in the world of nerdy entertainment. Also, it's a comic book club day again.
Yes,
guess what? It's a weekly club now.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're getting back to watching the pages turn on my Kindle of comic books.
Yes.
And getting back to some of the classic comic works. And because this weekend is the IMAX release of Marvel's Inhumans, I figured that we would talk the Inhumans.
Yeah.
Go figure. We are talking Inhumans. This is technically Volume 2. It's a 12-issue miniseries from 1998 and 1999, written by Paul Jenkins and illustrated by Jay Lee. and it is, I'd call it a reboot. It's like a soft reboot of the Inhumans.
A soft reboot.
Yeah, and here's why. They don't really change it. Well, they're trying to change something. They don't really change anything, but basically they are taking everything that's happened before with the Inhumans, and the Inhumans have never really had focused on them, their own series before, and just taking everything we know and just kind of telling you all one more time.
Okay.
Know? And then also, let's add a little new stuff. Let's, change it up a little bit. And so that's what that series is, and we could talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
And I think that's it. Maybe we'll have a review. We'll do our review of Marvel's IMAX Inhumans show right now. Ready? It's terrible. Or for MST3K fans, it stinks.
Yeah.
I got a chance to see it, and I actually turned the chance down.
Well,
pre-buzz was so bad. Maybe, I don't know, we'll talk about it at the end of the month when it's on broadcast, but everybody says it's the opposite of the Marx Brothers. Everybody says, I hate you.
Right.
It is not very good.
Yes.
And I think when we're talking about the comic book, we can also talk about the development of the TV show and talk about why or why not we think that could ever work as a thing.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Does it sound good?
Well, it sounds
bad.
like something to talk about.
Yeah. No. That's our bread and butter right here. How you doing? Eat any good bread or butter lately?
I'm doing well, Cal. A little disappointed that the Inhumans is not as good as I had hoped, but I know that at least I have faith that Marvel is trying.
Right. That there's a power greater than all of us.
Yeah.
That keeps us together. And you'll never walk alone.
Yeah.
Well, Inhumans isn't helping, but things are bad at the multiplex.
Okay.
These days. This is the Labor Day weekend is reportedly the worst box office weekend in 19 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
You would think that would not be so.
Yes. You would think that. 1999, the biggest movie in the Labor Day weekend, 99, was The Sixth Sense.
Okay.
Which made about $100 million in release, maybe a little more.
Yep.
So I guess you can blame this slump. And I don't know what you blame the slump on. Bad movies, people, back to school or whatever. But you can blame these conditions. Okay, let me just get it out.
Yeah.
What horrible M. Night-esque filmmaker will rise out of this septic tank? What will this fertilize? Because we got saddled with M. Night because in the midst of a huge slump where nothing else was going on, this little movie about a kid that sees dead people fired everybody's imagination.
Yes.
So what's going to happen this time around?
Oh, boy. I have no idea.
What will we be inflicted on us?
Yeah.
Annabelle creation?
Maybe.
Yeah, boy. Or maybe it'll be who directed Hitman's Bodyguard?
Oh boy, I have no idea.
Patrick Hughes. Maybe it'll be the season of Patrick Hughes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Ever heard of him?
No.
Yeah, me either. I think he directed one of the Expendables or something. Anyway, you're going to see him more now. Okay. I think he worked on Signs.
Great.
So anyway, Hitman's Bodyguard is kind of cleaning up. No, he didn't work on Signs. He worked on a short film called Signs. Anyway, don't Google and just podcast. Don't Google and podcast.
Okay.
Not even once. So Hitman's Bodyguard is apparently, kind of mediocre, but is riding off the star charm of Samuel L. Jackson and that other guy that was Green Lantern that one time. But it's actually doing pretty well, considering that it has no competition. So this is something that maybe we can dig into on a later show. But yeah, it doesn't look good. And my thing is, okay, so 19 years ago, that was a problem. I don't know what the overall trends are, but if you look at Lord of the Rings, Transformers, all these aughts films, and even some of the films of the early part of this decade, it worked out.
Yeah.
Like you're preaching like, the end is here and this is the end of like movies as we know it. And they didn't even have streaming to combat.
No.
Back then. So I think we're going to bounce back from this.
Yeah, we're going to, for sure.
99 was definitely like the birth of, 3D is going to get us out of this.
Right.
And that has not been true.
No.
I think a lot of times people, I think even 3D, and this is now we're on my Caliban's opinions corner. Even the presence, the existence of 3D, I think can make people go, really? I'll just stay home. You know what I mean? Because they have a 3D release and then they have like a 2D release. But if I know that you don't like paying for 3D.
Not usually.
I'm not a big fan of it. And I think, at least in my mind, if you look at a film and it's like Gravity, oh, you gotta see it. It's IMAX 3D. It's like you're really in space.
Right.
But if you don't want to shell out $25, you're like, I bet it'll look pretty good on my 40-inch at home.
Right.
And so you don't go at all.
Exactly. Well, and I just don't feel like 3D often pays off. It just
very rarely.
It very rarely does. Like maybe Avatar.
Yeah.
But other than that,
well, pretty soon you'll be able to have it pay off 5 more times
because of all the Avatar films.
Grandma,
yeah.
When the last one comes out in 2040 or whatever it is. Okay, God forbid, and he's got years left, hopefully, unless his sub implodes or something. Does he have somebody primed to take over the Avatar empire from him? We're talking about James Cameron.
I have no idea.
It won't be a woman. We know that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it will. Because he writes them better.
Yeah.
He's going to be scrappy and capable. Not perfect, but a good filmmaker, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Boy. I'm bored. Let's move on.
I don't know.
Talking about movies, it is now official that Joss Whedon will get a writer credit on Justice League.
Okay.
It had already been determined that he would not get a director's credit for his work on the reshoots for Justice League while Zack Snyder is taking a break.
Okay.
But he will get a writing credit.
Well, that's good at least.
That is good, but I don't know if that's just... And you and I both know that a lot of Hollywood just kind of turns into horse trading after a while.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Spacey, doesn't get the Oscar for Seven like he should have, so he gets it like
for American Beauty.
Yeah, or for Usual Suspects or whatever it is. I might have those backwards. Once again, it's been 25 years.
Yeah.
And so, if he's just doing the reshoots, how is he contributing to the script? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Even if he's just, encouraging the actors to do it again. You got a stomachache,
Funnier.
Improv, yeah. Funnier, come on.
Yeah.
But apparently, it's okay with the Guild that it's a writer credit.
Okay.
If I was him,
yeah,
I wouldn't want that.
No?
Because I think we all agree there's no way to really save this.
Right.
It's not going to be good either way. It might be less bad. But if he's directing it, sure, that's sort of the highest credit. But as a writer-director, he's just known for his writing, like his writing of characters and his dialogue.
Right.
But now he's on the hook as a writer.
And then if it's bad, it's bad.
This guy is a creator of fantasy. Just ask his ex-wife.
Oh, gosh.
That's an Outhouse joke.
Yeah.
Outhouses.com or whatever it is. I stole that one, but I had to get that in. So anyway, yeah, we'll have a review of Justice League come November.
We will.
We'll have it on our Day of the Dead show. So wait for that. I want to talk about the Crow remake.
Oh boy, we're still pushing forward with that, huh?
It's just or like it's just like crows on the newswire. Every week we could have a Crow movie update.
Oh boy,
because it seems like it's still going, and we've been reporting on it since our first show. 3 years we've been reporting on this, but it turns out that it is now being picked up by Sony.
Okay.
Yes. Sony, apparently the rights were up for grabs, and Sony has grabbed them. And here's what they say. They want to go lighter and more grounded with their movie about a guy who's murdered and a crow spirit brings him back to life as an unstoppable zombie that quotes poetry and shoots things. Lighter and more grounded is what they're looking for.
Right. Because that makes sense for this franchise. Wow.
Yeah.
Sony, do you have any idea what you're doing?
No, but you know what? Neither does Fox.
That's true.
Because apparently grounded is the buzzword of a movie industry that is falling apart. Simon Kinberg, producer of the X-Men films,
and
the guy that is helming the next X-Men film, Dark Phoenix, has also said that they need to ground the story. So they want this story to be grounded so it's not too intergalactic.
What does that even mean? Like, we don't want it out floating in space?
It means that they took some big swings. Look at what's come so far. X-Men, the first X-Men, when Hugh Jackman, and you should look at a before and after pic, he was just like a tall guy who looked pretty good with his shirt off.
Yeah.
All the way to overstuffed sausage penis arms that he is now. There's a 50-pound difference. But anyway, it was believable. It's just like, it's a scrappy team. They got to fight some other guys on the Statue of Liberty. Big deal. We're done.
Right.
You look at Days of Future Past. Okay, we got to take you. We're in the future, first of all. We're in the future. And then Juno is going to shoot your brain into your 70s brain. And then you're going to... like, what? But it worked. And then you look at Apocalypse. That guy, Ewan Davis, was alive back in Egyptian times. Now he's back, and he's going to... Actually, that's pretty much all. That movie's just jerking off, basically.
Yeah.
And Olivia Munn is a movie star somehow. Nobody's going to buy that. We got to ground this thing. Ground it. So let's take an X-Men story that is one of the most ambitious stories ever told.
Right.
About how one of our characters, which is going to be Sophie Turner. How do they make Sophie Turner evil? You can't. Game of Thrones tried to do it and they backed off. But she's going to go crazy, destroy an entire solar system, and then beings, bird aliens from another galaxy are going to come and put her on trial. And we're all going to go to the moon. Sorry, the blue area of the moon, to be specific, and fight the Imperial Guard, which is a guy with a mohawk. Grounded. We're going to ground it. We're going to ground it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Grounding things is, I think, probably what killed the IMAX Inhumans show.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen of the trailer.
Yeah.
Don't pick something that's so crazy and weird if you're not going to get anything out of it.
Well, and I mean, don't get something so crazy and weird and then, like, just play it like it's not crazy and weird.
Yeah. Well, who are you trying to fool?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy and weird. It's crazy and weird to do what we're describing. Speaking of crazy and weird things that are not going to be around anymore, Dark Matter has been canceled after 3 seasons at Sci-Fi.
No!
Yeah. And here's the good news-ish. Killjoys has been given 2 more seasons, and then they'll wrap up. So I guess we got to start watching Killjoys.
What the heck is Killjoys?
Yeah, well, what the heck is Dark Matter? Killjoys and Dark Matter are these 2... I don't know if they're produced by the same company. I'd assume not. But they're the both sort of breakout sleeper hits, if that is a thing. If you could be grounded and intergalactic at the same time. Shows that have been gaining a following on Sci-Fi.
Sure.
Sci-Fi, wow. You're almost like the old Sci-Fi. Did you lose some weight? Did you get a haircut? You look great. Like,
yeah.
This is the kind of shows they used to make. And, yeah, Dark Matter is canceled, although there is a petition, but come on, guys. Come on. Didn't you learn anything from Farscape? Although we did get a movie out of Farscape, though.
Yeah.
That did happen. All right, let's sign that petition. Listeners, sign a petition. Actually, listeners, watch Dark Matter. I know you haven't.
Then sign a petition.
It's good. Then sign the petition. Yeah, but that will be canceled, sadly, co-creator Joseph Malozzi announced. What are you going to miss the most about Dark Matter?
That's disappointing.
Android.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just watch Lost Girl or whatever.
Yeah.
Get all the Android you can handle. So that's too bad. Speaking of kind of janky TV shows that we're not sure about, Chloe Bennett, she's pretty much the star of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No offense to the guy that plays Coulson, Clark Gregg.
Yeah.
But she has spoken out recently about racism in Hollywood.
Okay.
She is a mixed race person. I think her father is full-blown Chinese.
Wow.
It's possible to stop saying something that comes into your head. Just not for me. So, anyway, he is ethnically Chinese.
Okay.
And her mom is, I don't know, something else. And she actually kind of got her start in her career in China because they lived over here. But as a young girl, it was clear that she had talent, could sing and act. And so she actually moved to China and lived with her paternal grandmother, and learned Chinese, Mandarin, I'm assuming, and started her like music career in China, and then came over back here and got acting gigs and stuff like that.
Okay.
So she, full on knows the trials and travails of, the fresh off the boat sort of crowd.
Yeah.
And she's remarked recently that things are rough, like you've heard.
Yeah.
Connected to this is something that it's a correction. We didn't get anything wrong. The universe corrected itself. But Ed Skrein, it corrected itself because now I know how to say his last name, was cast as Dameo in the Hellboy reboot.
Yes.
The reboot, right? Or was it a show? Anyway, he was cast in the Hellboy, the movie.
The movie, yeah.
And he's a white guy, Japanese-American character, and he dropped out. Yeah. He quit. And he left an entire Instagram post about it, which was like, it doesn't actually. Okay, so he didn't read the comic book, big deal. But he's like, I got the part, I was excited about it, and then we started talking to the company about it. It's like, I read the comic book, found out this guy was Japanese American, and I didn't want to. It's a real problem, it's a thing, and I don't want to perpetuate that. And so I'm sorry, everybody, I'm going to step away. And I was like, you and your little jaw with the ridges on it.
Yeah.
You skinny little mofo. Nice work.
Yeah. Good job, you.
Have you ever heard about that? We said last show that it was impossible because of contracts and stuff.
Yeah.
But apparently the ink was not dry.
It's rare, I think, that
it's very
somebody would step away.
Yeah.
But kudos to him for doing so.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And he'll be okay.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Oh yeah, he'll get. He'll be on a transporter reboot or something like that. Or maybe they'll hook him into Fast and Furious 9 as Jason Statham's little brother or something like that.
Something like that.
Plenty of possibilities out there.
Yeah.
And so Chloe Wang's her comments were just basically along those lines, kind of commenting on that, but also saying, yeah, it's rough. Her real name is Wang or Wong, and she changed it to Bennett. After her first audition, she went in, she was like, no, Bennett, let's go Bennett.
Okay.
That'll be my name.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she says that's a pretty clear little snippet of how Hollywood works.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, I think maybe we'll do a show in the future about this.
Okay.
Whitewashing 2?
Sure.
White washer? Wash whiter. Second time, yeah. But we'll definitely have to talk about that in the future. But anyway, kudos to Ed Skrein, and I gotta go listen to some of his fat beats. He's a rapper, right?
Sure.
Maybe you'll hear him on this show. One more story I wanted to talk about. It's racial adjacent, but not necessarily a racial story. We reported, I think, on the last show that Michael K. Williams, a.k.a. Omar Yo,
yes,
from The Wire, his part was eliminated due to reshoots and apparently scheduling problems, although everything is, when Kennedy got shot in Dealey Plaza, he missed his next appointment and they said it was scheduling problems, so that could mean anything. And Ron Howard has added a new cast member, not necessarily as that same character, but it's just fleshing out the movie a little bit. Paul Bettany shall now be in the untitled Han Solo movie.
All right. Why?
Because he's on Team Howard, because he was in A Beautiful Mind, and he was also played the very insensitive albino monk in Da Vinci Code.
Okay.
He's a Howard regular, just like Clint Howard.
Yeah.
No relation.
I don't know how I would feel about being a Howard regular.
No, but this is like the Inhumans thing. Nobody was ever going to be thrilled about it, but it's just heading towards straight bad now, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is it may not have worked, although let's see. The only thing that never worked for Lord Miller was Clone High, I think. Everything they've ever touched works.
Yeah.
So at some point you just fire Alden Ehrenreich,
right,
and just get a new Han Solo,
right?
But no, they did the other thing. They fired the directors and ostensibly writers, and now Ron Howard is turning it into a Ron Howard movie.
Right.
I want your opinion. I'm going to time it for a minute. Go.
I don't want another Ron Howard movie. I don't want a Ron Howard Han Solo movie. I think that it's going to be bad. and I think that he's being selfish in how he's choosing to direct it and like inserting his people and everything. That's what I think.
I agree. Ironically, Harrison Ford is kind of one of his people, isn't it? American Graffiti.
Well,
he's been in some other Ron Howard movies, hasn't he?
No,
he's probably more of a J.J. Abrams guy now. Anyway. Yeah, one of the first men to direct the literal Han Solo.
That's true.
Is now making the untitled Han Solo movie. Ron, let's start with the title before you just start adding actors.
Yeah.
Let's come up with a title.
Yeah.
That's real bad news that you guys don't have a title yet. Even a fake one. Just call it Smuggler Dreams or something like that.
Yeah.
You know? But then again, some of the titles of his movies have maybe not been that great.
Maybe not.
Cinderella's out of system. He's a man.
I am the voice of the youth, the voice of the new, the next generation annoyed at the news. Why I'm poisoned to shoot first, oil in my bruises, full of soil in my boots. I am the voice of the youth, I am the voice of the youth. This is the youth, the whole youth.
Imagine your world is defined by your genetics, the strange quirk of biology that gives you powers beyond those of mortal men, and you're hated and feared and pushed into seclusion because of it. Mm-hmm. I love the X-Men, don't you?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Me too.
They're really great. I hope that grounded Phoenix movie is going to turn out pretty good.
Yeah.
No, actually, in this case, we're talking about another Marvel set of characters that can fit that bill, the Inhumans.
Yes.
What was your exposure to the Inhumans? What was your exposure to the Terrigen Mists? See, if I had thought of that before, that would have sounded really great. Instead, I said full-blown Chinese. Terrible. I apologize.
I was exposed to the Inhumans and Terrigen Mists through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
That's basically...
I'm sorry.
Most of my exposure to the Inhumans.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay.
Not great.
Yeah.
You must have... I'm sure the Inhumans stopped by on an episode of Earth's Mightiest Heroes or something like that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world was exposed to the Inhumans for the first time in Fantastic Four 36. That's the first appearance of Medusa.
Okay.
And I don't think it's been a while since I've read my early Fantastic Four, but I don't think she was really called out as an Inhuman. She was just a member of the Frightful Four, which is a perennial Fantastic Four villain squad. And then later on, they brought in other characters, and then we see full-blown Inhumans, a little better, in issue 45.
Okay.
So this is right before issues 48 to 50, which we read for Comic Book Club a little while ago, which was the coming of Galactus.
Sure.
But this is all, this is it. This is the, what do you call it? The blue period of
sure.
Kirby and that other guy. Wow. Cosmic Justice. I can't remember Stan Lee's name, but I can remember Jack Kirby's name. Well, that tells you everything you need to know about the Inhumans, I think. And yeah, they've been classic Marvel side characters.
Sure.
One of the problems, this is a business. It's a business based on art and creativity, but it's always been a business, which is why they've tried to reboot Doctor Strange as like a fun-loving, like Hawaiian shirt-wearing guy with like sunglasses and a skateboard every 5 years or so. But one of the things I've always loved about the Marvel Universe is their comfort with ancillary characters. We were having a conversation with an artist and friend of ours, Eric Lervold, recently, and he was talking about how it's cool that Marvel has these side characters, and they come up with them, and like a lot of characters from the 70s, have a character arc, and when that arc is complete, that character should go away.
Yeah.
But because this is a business, we have to continue to try to keep bringing them back or expanding them. I think I suggested Mobius, the living vampire. He goes for a while, he finds a cure to his vampirism or whatever. We're done. It's good.
Yes.
He suggested Luke Cage, who I think they have done a good job. I'm complimenting Bendis here. turning into a more modern hero. But as far as like once Carl Lucas clears his name, we're done, right?
Right.
He can go home and just have a regular life. And that's kind of always been the thing with the Inhumans, at least up until recently, and we'll talk about that. Is that they've just been around. They've been out there. If you need the Fantastic Four, once a year or maybe twice, once every 2 years. Oh, something's going on in Adelan. We got to get over there.
Right.
And help the Inhumans. And this is kind of the beginning of them opening up. Now, I don't have the background as to whether, like when Ike Perlmutter really got his hands in the Play-Doh as far as trying to push them as a property to compete against X-Men.
Okay.
X-Men, the movie, came out in the year 2000.
Sure.
So it was clearly in development in 98 and 99.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, maybe the powers that be decided let's try to give a push to our other weirdo heroes.
Right.
And see where we can go with that.
Right.
But I don't think that Paul Jenkins, the writer of this, and Jay Lee cared about that at all. They just showed up to play.
Right.
And so we've got a 12-issue miniseries about Paul Jenkins, British writer who wrote on Hellblazer. His Hellblazer stuff is pretty good. He's famous for later on, I think it was later, doing the Wolverine Origin series, which is very controversial.
Okay.
Because it developed the origin of Wolverine as being a little boy in a nightshirt. He was a little boy who lived in a great mansion, a Harry Potter kind of figure, before he became the Logan that we know and love. And he also created the Sentry, so blame him for that.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm not a big fan of the Sentry.
All right.
And Jay Lee is a interesting figure. I think he probably gets most of his... Well, he's worked a lot as a cover artist, but he first, ironically, did a Namor comic, was one of his first big comics.
Okay.
And he did a Fantastic Four miniseries, which also featured Namor. And he drew X Factor for a while in the 90s. And then he went on to... Got a lot of work with Image on Youngblood, did like a Wildcats miniseries. And also did Hellshock as well, which was a character created by him and written by him. But otherwise, he's a guy that, I don't know, you don't see him a lot. And he's one of these guys that it's clear that he is supremely talented, but his style isn't really comics necessarily.
I could see that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very different than what you'd...
It's like paintings.
Yeah, well, yeah. But it's very impressionistic. It's not... You think of the... I can see the guy's obliques, and he's got big muscles, and, or it's a lady, and I can see her butt and her boobs at the same time, and it's comics. And I like him for not delivering what you'd normally expect to see. He recently did some of the Dark Tower comics, and I think he's perfect for that.
Okay.
Very gothic kind of style.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Inhumans. Tell me about the Inhumans. Let's get through everything you know about the Inhumans.
Well,
pitch me the Inhumans, Jack.
Black Bolt is their leader, and
What's his full name?
King Black Bolt?
Sir.
Yeah.
His name is Blackagar Boltagon.
Okay.
So we worked real hard on that.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
And he cannot speak because if he does, it'll asunder like great catastrophe on everything.
Right.
So he is a silent leader. He's married to Medusa, who's got magical hair.
Yeah, sure.
And she's got a sister named Crystal, who's part of the Inhumans. Let's see here. Who else?
Well, but who are the Inhumans, though? What are they?
They're everybody is an individual. They have individualistic powers that are given to them by the Terrigen Mists.
Right. And specifically, they're Inhumans, but they are an offshoot of humanity. They're related to humans.
Right.
In that many millions of years ago, the Kree, which is an alien race, in the Marvel Universe, came to Earth and picked a group of humans and sort of monkeyed with their genetics. Because the Kree are obsessed with genetics, have been for millions of years because they're convinced that they've reached an evolutionary dead end.
Right.
And so they wanted to sort of manipulate this genetic stock of the humans to see if they could come up with like a super race or like a weapon that they could use. And then I guess they got bored. Well, there's other reasons why they left, but so they sort of left the Inhumans, on Earth, and the humans had to live apart from humanity simply because they were different. But then also, one of their vulnerabilities is that they are very this is very topical, Jack and Stan. Nice job. They're vulnerable to pollution.
Yeah.
So we walk around and go, "Oh, the smog's not so bad today. We're fine." They can't even take that. That's like that will poison and kill them.
Yeah. So they live in this very secluded area that has like a barrier.
The city
to the
of
outside
Adelan,
world.
yes.
Yeah. Which is like Atlantis.
Yeah, kind of.
So.
I see what you're doing there, Stan and Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's above ground.
It was originally, I believe, on the ocean.
Yeah.
Then it got moved to... I can't remember if the Fantastic Four meet them in the Himalayas or if they help them move it to the Himalayas. But they do eventually help them move it to the blue area of the moon.
Okay.
So they lived on the moon for a while.
Sure.
Then they came back to the newly erased Atlantis, which we'll talk about when we talk about the comic. And then it gets moved back to the Himalayas, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, recently, well, not recently, it's almost 10 years ago now, but in the War of Kings sort of storyline, it gets turned into a spaceship, and then they go flying around space.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then who knows where it is. I don't know what Charles Soule's doing with the Inhumans now. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
What else?
So there's a coming-of-age ceremony that everybody goes through.
Right.
At like around the age of like 13 or so.
Yeah. Just like mutants get their powers at adolescence.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
There are some notable exceptions, though.
Yes.
So, Blackagar Boltagon and his brother Maximus. Blackagar, let's just call him Black Bolt. His parents actually administered Terrigen to him in the womb.
Okay.
Because, like you said, too, the Inhumans are very concerned with their genetics. Because this is kind of a lottery kind of thing. Like, it's seen as something that everybody should do, and it's a rite of passage. But you could come out like with
really
super
weird.
Cool hair that you can use to... Or just be... Or you could be Crystal. You could literally control the elements, have an awesome power, and then you've got a cool stripe in your hair, and nothing else. You're fine.
Yeah.
Or you could come out with, like, goat feet, like Gorgon.
Yeah.
And have to be careful where you walk.
Yeah.
And so... their entire society has become based around this genetic hierarchy, which is there's a we don't really get into this in this series, but there's a council that basically decides who you can marry, who you can mate with, because we want to keep these sort of bloodlines pure. It's
okay.
Stan and Jack, where are you going?
Wow.
But it's almost you could argue that let people be free, but it's sort of like necessary use of eugenics, kind of.
Okay.
Because they're worried that, you could get somebody whose face is falling off, bad news, or you can get another Black Bolt. And the second that person goes, how do I look? It's very destructive and kills everyone.
Right.
So they have to be careful to sort of shape this in a way. And something that this miniseries gets into, and we should probably just start talking about it, that I liked is that even though they all call each other cousin, and they all see themselves as like this band that has to stick together, there's total like divisions and castes in their society.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's like one girl. So we at one point, and it kind of gets dropped, and I thought that was kind of sad. But we start following this young group of Inhumans that are going to have their first exposure to the mists, and they're all worried about I hope I get it. Like what's going to happen to them? Yeah. And this one girl's really worried about it, and it turns out that she gets like a cool power. She can fly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the genetic scientists are pumped because they haven't had like a flyer in like 30 years. This is going to be good news. And then another girl just gets a long hand. Her hand is a stretch hand.
Yeah.
And so the girl's like, well, that's okay. And the flying girl's like, yeah, we can't really be friends anymore, and just takes off.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. That's how it works, huh?
Uh-huh.
And later on, we meet this other character who, his whole thing is like he's got an extra little chest hand.
Yes.
And he can do sweet tats.
Yes.
apparently, like, when he touches you, he can change the color of your skin. And so he runs, like, a tattoo parlor in, like, the bad part of Adelan.
Right.
Which is like, how's the urban renewal and gentrification going in your neighborhood, Paul? Do you look out the window and you don't like all the neon tattoo signs you're seeing? Neighborhood's behind a little. Anyway, thought that was kind of interesting. He also, that's directly related to Karnak. Karnak's always just worn this big helmet and never had tattoos. And this is where he gets, like, Jay Lee apparently came up with the tattoo idea. Yeah. Karnak, interestingly, is an Inhuman, but he has not been exposed to the Terrigen Mists.
Interesting.
His ability to find the weakness and flaw in everything is merely a result of studying with Inhuman monks and learning, martial arts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody's got a little variation on kind of what their deal is.
Yeah. Everybody's special.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Even in the way that they express their powers or had their powers develop is very different.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really, really like about the Inhumans, and I really wish that they would push that instead of these weird... Because there's a political element to it, too. If I had to describe Inhumans, I'd say take, more than 51% of the X-Men, and 35%... These aren't going to add up at all.
Okay.
35%... like a Shakespeare history play, like a Henry the something, or Richard II or something like that.
Okay.
Which Shakespeare play has a mad brother? We haven't even talked about Maximus yet.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, like Henry IV Part 2 or something like that, because of all the courtly sort of drama. And then you put a little bit of Fantastic Four in there, like that's the frog DNA.
Sure.
To add to the dinosaur DNA.
Sure.
Yeah, and then stir, and that's the Inhumans.
Okay. I can see that for sure.
What happens in this story specifically?
Well, they get attacked by humans.
Yes. On humans. We're just humans.
Yeah. And they don't know what to do because Black Bolt seems to be wanting to resist fighting them.
Yeah.
And then it takes them a really long time. They're like, we should do something.
Yeah.
We should do something.
Yeah, it takes, we're contracted for 12 issues? That much time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, this could have been 6 issues.
Yeah.
Easily.
So it's a lot of back and forth about let's do something and them not doing anything.
Yeah, right. And everybody getting mad about that.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, like I said, I think this is a reboot. I think that the reason that kind of works and the reason they did it is because you have this whole subplot where, yeah, Maximus... Oh, we forgot to say that. So there's this one character of the young people named Waz.
Yes.
Who apparently dies, when he's exposed to the mists, which people, apparently that's a problem. That can happen. But in reality, we find out that Maximus, somehow, we don't ever know how, has interfered with his terrigenesis.
Yes.
And it creates a specific thing in him, which is 2 things. One, he takes on the appearance of what's called an alpha primitive. And again, I mentioned the caste system before. This is the dirty little secret of Adelan, is that it essentially works on Fritz Lang metropolis-like slave labor. Like there's a cloned species called the alpha primitives who work in the bowels of the city, keeping it going. And Maximus inspires them to revolt every 3rd Tuesday.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah. And so he gets thrown down there, isolated from everybody else. And he has the Inhuman ability to teleport through mirrored surfaces.
Yes.
And so Maximus is in a jail cell in Adelan, but he has a mirror, just for convenience, I guess, or to represent his vanity. And so that gives him access. He starts to whisper sweet, honeyed words in Waz's ear and gets him to do all these things for him. And so Maximus has contacted this Russian general on the outside who he is employing and paying him with, I don't think we ever find out, but he's employing him to manipulate events because the Portuguese government... Adelan is off the coast of Portugal. That's where Atlantis is, the ruins of Atlantis. And so he is manipulating them to attack Adelan, which normally would be completely shielded from this, but there's this sort of set... Maximus knows all the weaknesses, and so he is unfurling these plans bit by bit in order to get the army in there and cause havoc. I was going to say chaos and havoc. Havoc.
Sure.
And he knows that Black Bolt and the Inhumans could easily defeat the attackers. They could punch everybody on Earth to death, no problem.
Right.
But he knows that Black Bolt won't take any action, and he knows that people like Gorgon, like his lieutenant and leader of the army, is hot-headed and won't like that. And so this is all an attack on Black Bolt's authority.
Yes.
He's eventually expecting that everybody will turn to him simply because Black Bolt refuses to do anything.
Right.
Because if they fight back, then all of humanity will fight them. So they're between a rock and a hard place.
Yes. That's it exactly.
Yes. Bad news. And so you get like these political subplots too, where the Inhumans send a envoy to the United Nations.
Yes.
Because they're like, hey, okay, I know that we don't usually hide and stuff, but we got a problem with one of your countries. And since you're the United Nations, maybe you can help us out. And they're like, okay, well, we'll have a committee. And they're like, hey, Princess Leia, we don't got time to discuss this in committee. And there's like this subplot of like, bureaucracy,
Right.
Oh, the Clinton years, when that's all we had to worry about. When that's all we had to worry about. If this had happened after September 11th, it would have been, Michael Bay and the Blue Angels would have flown over and like bombed the crap out of the Portuguese.
Gosh.
They've been like, thanks, America. So it was a little different climate.
Yeah.
Climate,
Yeah, for sure.
What else did you do? Any other subplots that you like there? They kind of have a couple subplots that are running through.
There are a couple of subplots. There's one where I forget his name. He's like the sea creature. Triton. He saved a little boy from a ship that was drowning, and his grandpa told him to rescue him. Yeah.
No, it wasn't just any ship. It was specifically the Lusitania.
Oh,
that was sunk in 1914 history, World War I history. It was a very famous incident that basically got the Allies into the war when this, I don't know, they suspect, the U-boats were sinking ships because, this is a passenger ship. Oh, yeah, but you've got like tanks or something on it, right?
Right.
So a lot of people went down as the biggest disaster since the Titanic, which they mentioned in that scene.
Yes.
And it was a kind of a big deal. And for me, that was, it was neat, but it was also clearly, we need one more issue.
Yeah.
So let's do a one shot. Triton is the Aquaman of the Super Friends of the Inhumans, if that makes any sense.
Exactly.
Kind of a twisted SAT metaphor or analogy. But it's like, we got to get him in the water, give him a chance to do something. And it's also interesting to note that the Inhumans themselves are the Terrigenesis causes their powers, but their genetic modification by the Kree was primarily to make them strong and fast and invulnerable. So they're sort of like Asgardians in that you could probably shoot one in the head, but they're like tougher, stronger, and smarter than normal humans.
Sure.
And then it's the myths that give them their abilities. But Triton is interesting because he is very long-lived. He's been alive since, he says that he was a young boy, but he's been alive since World War I, at least that long.
Right.
Yeah. But that was a neat thing.
Well, and he saved the little boy, and then we see the little boy as an old man.
Right, but have the old man come back. It's because it's like, oh, Silas, are you looking at the water again? Let's wheel you back for some Jell-O. Have the old man turn out to be a guy that works for the UN or something like that. Like he's the delegation from Scotland or something.
Yeah.
Like bring it back together somehow.
Yeah.
That's my big criticism for me is that, it goes, we get it. Everybody's worried that Black Bolt is not doing anything. And also he can't say, hey, I got a little plan here.
Right.
Just don't worry about it.
He can't say anything. So
for like 7 issues, he just stands and looks out a window. And that goes on for a long time.
It does.
And then it turns out, and there's many aspects to this, because Maximus has got the alpha primitives riled up. They've broken through the negative zone barrier. A couple of Inhumans get killed by the army. Everything's terrible. Medusa gets kidnapped by Maximus. And in a very coded sort of scene and action, he cuts off all her hair, like against her will. I think that's supposed to be what you think, for the most part. And so everybody's like, what's going on? And then she's gone. That's the thing about Medusa is that she's sort of his interpreter.
Yeah.
I was talking about this with some of the guys that I was on the Inhumans panel with at FanFest, and they were like, I think they have a sign language. And I was like, I don't think so. I think it's just a comic thing where she just kind of knows. She knows her husband. Like, she knows his intentions.
Yeah.
She's his interpreter. But apparently Karnak can do it too. Because in the last issue or so, Karnak's like, all right, you guys, it's okay for me to tell you now. We set this whole thing up. We sent Triton off to Namor, and Namor said, get out of here. But it's one of those things where the note says, hey, please help us, and say, get out of here. So Namor and everybody shows up, and everything's fine there. And the entire time, Medusa was in on the plan to get captured because it meant that she would be able to use her hair to pull the plug on the lights at the right time.
Which is like,
okay. Yeah, I know. And then, because even if you cut off her hair, she can still control it. So she's got hair walking around. She should make a hair, like a hair person.
Yeah.
Make a hair Medusa. Yeah. And then so in addition to being, having the destructive voice, he's also like invulnerable, super strong, and he's got lightning powers too.
Yes.
So then he just goes, all right, I'm just going to walk down there and lightning everybody, and we're good.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you could have done that, I don't know, 11 issues ago.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine.
And their plan all along, apparently, was to get rid of or destroy Atlantean.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. The whole point was that they knew that, so they've perched the city on the recently recovered Atlantis.
Yeah.
But they knew that was bad news.
Yeah.
And you get the idea. I mean, they did send people to the UN, so maybe they thought, maybe we could be a nation, like on Earth.
Right.
Maybe we could deal with these guys, but it's not working out. So they have to sort of fake their deaths.
Yeah.
Because the way that they're going to disappear is going to look like they blew up or whatever.
Right.
And then relocate to the Himalayas or whatever, and they're good news.
Yeah.
And and the plan goes off as planned, except for one or two Inhumans died, and Medusa's going to spend the next 10 years growing all her hair back.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. And then Charles Soule is going to just come in and screw the whole thing up forever. What'd you think about the art?
I liked it. It's clean lines.
Is it?
Yeah.
I would say it's the opposite of clean lines.
You think so?
There is a lot, in between Medusa's hair. Medusa's hair is he's the perfect person to draw Medusa's hair, him or Todd McFarlane, I guess, because there's all these little lines going everywhere, but he keeps that aesthetic for other parts too, like a lot of the architecture, like the window that Black Bolt is behind is like this, Gothic sort of stained glass, curly hues and filigree and stuff like that. And he's a real like detail guy, but he's also got the sort of Mike Mignola side too, where it's like, give me that Sharpie, I'm going to black a lot of this out. And so, yeah, he's a guy who, I don't know, sometimes I really like his stuff, sometimes I don't, but I think his style I think he handles it really well. And he's redesigned the characters a little bit.
Sure.
From the Kirby days. And I like the classic Kirby stuff, but I think the redesigns look pretty good too. Nobody can ever give Medusa a costume like post Kirby. Like, she had an actual costume. Now she just,
wears purple.
Yeah, purple bodysuit.
Yeah.
And that's,
pretty much it.
That's pretty much, yeah. Jim Krueger in Earth X just went, why does she have clothes? She's got hair. So her hair, it's like a Venus on the half shell type thing.
Great.
Any favorite characters?
I like Lockjaw a lot.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Lockjaw.
And he was very entertaining.
Yeah, in his issue. Because when you've got 12 issues and like 8 characters, every character is going to get their own issue.
Yeah.
And so, there's the issue where it's like, scratchy scratch, get some food. And like, you get it from his point of view.
Yeah, and he's like, people are talking, they're noisy. I'm going to leave.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I enjoyed that. That was pretty great.
I've always liked Crystal. She doesn't do anything in this story, sadly, but she was a really big part of the 60s and 70s Fantastic Four because she got a taste of man's world and wanted to come back.
Okay. And
so she got these. They take these pills that counteract the pollution, I guess.
Okay.
And she actually joined the Fantastic Four for a while.
Okay.
I think maybe when, Ben was sitting out or something. And so she had a relationship with Johnny, which he screwed up because he screws up all his relationships. But, yeah, I mean, she has perfect powers to complement the Fantastic Four and was a hero for a while. Then she married Quicksilver.
Okay.
And they had a child together who shows up at the very end of this story. Suddenly there's a kid. That's Luna. That's Crystal's child.
I was like, who is the kid?
Yeah. And then later on, she married Ronan in the Abnett and Lanning, like War of Kings thing.
Okay.
Ronan the Accuser.
Okay.
Yeah. Got weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always just really liked her. Yeah, Black Bolt's great.
Yeah.
One thing that I have, though, is that I think one of the reasons that it doesn't work a lot of the time is that you're almost imprisoned by this awesome character.
Yeah.
It's that thing that if he can do anything, then what the heck?
Why doesn't he then?
Whatever problem they have, he's either smart enough or tough enough, or he'll just get out of here. You can just destroy them instantly.
Yeah.
And I think, to Sewell's credit, he has tried to fix that by showing that he's not that great or he goes too far. And we got to take Black Bolt out of there.
Yeah.
We got to get rid of him.
Yeah. It's
a Dragon Ball Z thing. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about Dragon Ball Z. If Goku is so tough and he can defeat anybody and he's the best and he's the greatest, you got to get rid of him. So kill him off. Have him die for a while or something like that.
Sure.
And that's what they got to do, I think, with Black Bolt. Final thoughts on the Inhumans.
I enjoyed the book. I kind of wish it was a little shorter.
Yeah.
It was a little too long. But I enjoyed the characters. I think the story could have been a little bit more interesting. It was a little bit like will they, won't they?
Yeah, right.
So that's what I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd always heard that this was not good, and I don't know where that reputation comes from.
I don't know.
This is great. I think it's good. It's good. It's better to have too much of a good thing than not enough of a bad thing. Well, that's clear. That's not a dichotomy at all. Yeah, there's a little too much, but none of it's, it all works for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining, and it's great to see. You can see why, political reasons or not, the Inhumans are back in such a big way, is because this proves that it works. Like, this can go on. Their weirdness is that the mutant thing. Cyclops has to wear sunglasses, big deal. Jean Grey's gorgeous. Like, they've taken the pitch of what the mutant thing was always supposed to be, and what Grant Morrison tried to bring back, which is, it's tough to be these people. You can't just go to a movie and stuff.
Right.
And unlike where the X-Men have kind of fixed that, it's still a problem. And so that's its strength and its weakness, because I want to read stories about that, but I can see how your normal reader would pick it up and go, what's this?
Yeah.
But you would recommend? I
would recommend it.
I would as well. So that's a double recommendation for us. I would say check it out for sure. You can anywhere. This is the one that you'll find collected in a trade. It's on digital. You can get it anywhere. So as far as going forward, I'd like to recommend Inhumans to you. I know that the state of it is kind of real messed up right now.
Right.
There are 2 new, all different books overseen by Sewell, but not necessarily written by him. And Ms. Marvel, maybe?
Okay.
Would you recommend Ms. Marvel?
I would absolutely recommend Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel's amazing.
And she is an Inhuman.
That's true.
Yeah.
She is an Inhuman.
Right. Yeah, there is a new series with Crystal as the lead. I can't remember what it's called. And okay, this is... All right, we can wrap it up. This is something that I respect about Jenkins, is that he came in, he made it his own, but he used what was already there, gave you what you wanted.
Right.
He didn't do that thing where it's like, well, now it's mine now, I'm going to piss all over it. This is mine. And so Crystal's the star of this new series, and they cut her hair. She's got a pixie cut.
Oh, what?
Well, you cut that hair. That's the whole thing of her character. It's like, why does she have this black thing in her hair?
Yeah.
Is it a headband or something?
It doesn't look like a headband.
Did you ever wonder about that?
It looks like it's...
Jack Kirby drew this thing 50 years ago now, and he just put this stripe, this band, and this circle in her hair. And he never explained it.
Just looked like a cool dye job, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's probably the one thing that I would give the new Inhuman show, which we were supposed to talk about, but you know how we feel. It looks like crap. It's bad. But they got her hair right.
Yeah.
Because it's not a headband like some artists draw. It's just black for some reason. It's blonde and then it's black.
Yeah.
And even they made the tips black in the show too, which I think was cool.
That is cool.
As it's drawn by Kirby a lot. But you get these old things and then, you go, okay, so Spider-Man's got white eyes and he's got crisscross pattern and he's got webs under his suits under his arms when Ditko draws him.
Right.
And then somebody else comes on and there's got to be like a style guide or a Bible somewhere, right?
Right.
But I think for a lot of this early stuff there wasn't. And so all you're doing is just going off of your interpretation, but also what has come before. And I love seeing new interpretations of Crystal because it's like, what do people do? There have been people... I found this website. I won't share it with you because this guy's a little crazy, but he did like a scientific explanation of whether Crystal's hair is the black is a band or if it's her actual hair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he gets real deep. But he made some good points, which is Jack Kirby, when he drew it, probably meant for it to just be a stylistic decoration.
Yeah.
And didn't elaborate. But then you see later artists come on and they'll draw her hair, but they'll specifically have two different like one part's coming down by her cheek but another part's blowing back and they're both separated and black to show that it's not. They're trying to say, look at this specifically.
Right.
I know in the Ultimate Crystal, I don't know who the artist was, but he specifically made it this huge clip around band. It's not her hair, it's a band.
Okay.
And even when Kirby drew her, sometimes it just wouldn't be there because he forgot or the inker didn't do what he's supposed to do. And then there's one circle, but in order to show the readers that this woman has weird hair, you wouldn't see the circle unless she's more than 3/4 turned away, right?
Right.
So they will try to, for some reason, it seems like it's bigger or on the side.
It's encroaching on her face.
But some artists took that to mean that there's two. So a lot of times you will see, the Randy Bowen statue of her has just two big circles in the back.
Oh my gosh.
Because I think an artist extrapolated that as, there must be two if it's by her ear. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's weird. I guess I'm obsessed with Crystal. But I just think it's one of those weird artifacts of this serial medium that is made by 1,000 fathers and mothers.
Yeah, it is.
So let's just cut all that off. And she's still got the markings. And the crazy guy pointed out that it's possible biologically, kind of, because cats have that. If you shave a cat,
yes,
it's just grayish pink.
Yeah.
But when its hair grows back, here it's white, here it's orange. Do you know what I mean? Specific follicles grow a certain color. So it's all right, but how does it get halfway down and then it's black? And then it grows orange again. How does that work? I don't know.
Right.
So, yeah, there are Inhuman series out there if you want to check them out. Inhumanity would be a good place to start. That's one from a couple years ago. The Inhumans, pretty good.
Yeah.
The evil that lies that's Inhumanoids. That's different. Let's move forward, as we always must. Outlander, a show that barely qualifies as sci-fi or fantasy.
Yeah.
It's got time travel that we often talk about on this show, is returning next week to Stars for Season 3. And we are definitely going to be talking about that. And I thought, let's read a comic which, for me, in my mind, knowingly or not, has got to be one of the inspirations of Outlander.
Right.
And that is Fushigi Yugi.
Yes.
What happens in Fushigi Yugi?
In Fushigi Yugi, this girl goes back in time and falls in love with an ancient hero. And also hilarity ensues.
Well, it has to. It always does.
Yes.
Yes.
And she's also trying to get back home, just like in Outlander.
Right.
But at the same time, she doesn't want to leave because of her newfound friends.
Right. And she's in love.
With
this hero, yeah.
Yeah.
That's Outlander.
Yeah.
And then he gets raped by her... No, wait.
No.
Maybe it's not Outlander. But we'll talk about that. So we'll be reading the first volume, the Viz volumes. There's 16 volumes, so we're reading the first one, which collects the first 3 sort of stories or arcs. And you can get that pretty much anywhere as well. So if you want to read along with us, it's the first volume of Fushigi Yugi next time on Comic Book Club. You feel better now?
I do feel better.
Started off
now.
talking about death. Now we're talking about new strange life.
Yes.
Inhuman life. And all the weirdness that isn't...
with the kid, Luna.
With the kid, Luna, yeah. Who was the center of one of the worst crossovers of 90s Marvel.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was an Avengers X-Men crossover because Luna is a muggle that came from purebloods.
Oh, gosh. Great.
So an Inhuman and a mutant, Quicksilver and Crystal, flip those around, have a child, and she's just normal.
Okay.
And that was kind of a big deal for some reason. And so this one villain, this Magneto henchman, decided to make a big deal about it, and it doesn't really matter. Stupid, dumb, doesn't matter. It's terrible. But anyway, we feel better now. We're laughing, and we're having fun.
That's right.
And we're going to read a manga for our next comic book club, which I'm kind of looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to it.
Got to read some more of that.
Yeah.
Should we read something like Attack on Titan or High School of the Dead? Or I've got all those. We could just read Dragon Ball. I've got all the Viz Dragon Balls.
Yeah, we could do that.
No Z, original Dragon Ball.
I got Sailor Moon.
A lot of panty talk. Yeah, Sailor Moon. There you go. See how those cousins are doing.
That's right.
They're so close. Love being together. Well, if you want to be cousins with us, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Also on iTunes. Go to iTunes, search for Just Enough Trope. There's our show page. Subscribe to the show if you would. It is the best way to get the show. It's available not when you're 13. You get it right away.
That's right.
Look at you. And leave us a rating if you would. We love hearing how you think we're doing. And give us a review and a rating, and both of those things.
Yes.
If you would, because that's how we know, and specifically I know, iTunes knows that we're doing a good job. We move up the ranks, get up there. We don't say anything, but you just know. You know what we're thinking. Because if we did say something, it would be incredibly destructive, like full-blown Chinese. And that's probably now going to be the title of the show, sadly. See if we get away with that. So in that case, leave us 5 forks taped to the top of our heads.
Okay.
For our Black Bolt cosplay.
All right.
What was that weird interlude where they cut to a bunch of people who look homeless and they've got automatic weapons and they're like, yeah, we're the Inhumans. And he gives this whole speech about how they're free and they can't be controlled. And then the punchline is like the cops outside the house are like, you still have to pay taxes, Randy.
Yeah.
It was supposed to show that the arrival of the Inhumans is like affecting like culture and society and stuff like that. In fact,
that's a good question.
I forgot. I didn't take notes and we read it a little while ago. They go to Bill Maher. And it's politically incorrect, I think. It's not the new one.
Yeah.
It's not Real Talk or whatever. And yeah, Bill Maher... Reed Richards is on Bill Maher's show.
I know.
And he's like, so tell me about these Inhumans. I got to work. I really want to do a good Bill Maher. And that wasn't, there's mess, okay. No, it's dumb. Anyway, cut all that. Not ready for prime time. Just give us 5 stars so you don't have to hear my horrible Bill Maher impression. Well, that's it. We are doing Fashugi Yugi on the next show for Comic Book Club. I am signing off. It's your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.